A judge insults Pam Bondi in open court. Minutes later, she has him in handcuffs. You won't believe what just happened. Pam Bondi was no stranger to high-pressure situations. She had built her career in the legal trenches, fearlessly taking on some of the most powerful figures in the country. But today? Today was different. As she stepped into Judge Howard Gates' courtroom, she felt the weight of something unusual, something charged in the air. This wasn't going to be just another legal battle. This was a war. The case in front of her had the power to shake political foundations, a high-stakes government ethics violation with millions of dollars on the line. A wealthy developer, deeply entrenched in political circles, was accused of siphoning state funds into his private empire. The evidence was overwhelming. Bondi had done her homework. But what she hadn't prepared for was the sheer hostility radiating from the bench before she even spoke a word. Judge Gates barely acknowledged her presence, flipping through a file with deliberate slowness, allowing an uncomfortable silence to settle over the courtroom. It wasn't the usual kind of silence, the respectful pause before proceedings. It was calculated, a power play. Finally, without even looking up, he spoke, his tone dripping with condescension. Miss Bondi, I assume you've prepared something worthwhile today, or should we skip ahead to the part where you waste my time? A few chuckles rippled through the back of the room, mostly from the defendant's legal team. Bondi ignored them. She had faced worse. Your Honor, the evidence will speak for itself. This case involves the misuse of taxpayer dollars, and my duty is to ensure the facts are presented accurately. Judge Gates leaned back in his chair, feigning boredom. Taxpayer dollars.
Right.
Because that's never been the foundation of a frivolous case before. Bondi's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice even. Respectfully, Your Honor, I would hardly call felony corruption charges frivolous. For a moment, their eyes met his cold, calculating. Hers, unwavering. But before she could continue, he cut her off. Miss Bondi, spare me the lectures. Just get to the point. I don't have all day to entertain whatever grandstanding you have planned. The murmurs in the courtroom weren't just noise now. They were whispers of something else. Disbelief. Concern. Something was off, and everyone could feel it. Pam took a slow, deliberate breath. She knew what was happening. Gates wanted her rattled, off balance. He wanted to set the pace, control the narrative. But she wasn't about to let him win that game. She picked up a folder from the table, flipping it open. Your Honor, I'd like to direct the court's attention to Exhibit A. These financial records clearly demonstrate. Judge Gates interrupted, voice laced with arrogance. Do you always insist on drowning people in paperwork, or is this just your way of compensating? The shift in the room was instant. The defense attorney smirked. A few reporters exchanged glances.
But Bondi?
She didn't flinch. She had learned long ago that men like Judge Gates thrived on intimidation. The only way to beat them was to never, ever let them see you rattle. She let the silence stretch, then calmly set the folder down. Your Honor, if you'd prefer to continue making this personal, I'm happy to request a recess while we address any professional concerns you may have. It was subtle, not aggressive, not disrespectful, but pointed. A clear warning that she wasn't going to roll over. For the first time, his lips curled, not quite a smirk, not quite a sneer. Amusement? Annoyance? It was hard to tell. Oh, I don't have concerns, Miss Bondi. I just know a weak case when I see one. This time, the reaction wasn't just murmurs. A few gasps. A sharp inhale from somewhere in the gallery. This wasn't how a judge was supposed to conduct a hearing. Pam could feel the weight of the room shifting. The tension thick, eyes darting between her and Gates like a high-stakes match. But she wasn't going to engage in a shouting match. That's exactly what he wanted. Instead, she adjusted her blazer, straightened her papers, and looked him dead in the eye. Then I suppose we should let the evidence do the talking. But as she spoke, she caught something in his expression. Not just arrogance. Not just condescension. Something else. Something deeper. A flicker of fear. And that's when she knew. This wasn't just about courtroom theatrics. Judge Gates wasn't just being combative for sport. He had something to hide. And what he didn't know.
So, did she?
Pam Bondi had been in plenty of tense hearings before. But this was different. This wasn't just a judge ruling from the bench. This was a man playing a game. A calculated, deliberate attempt to shut her down in front of everyone.
But why?
She moved through her arguments carefully, watching him, studying him. Every word she spoke, he was waiting, coiled, ready to strike. His lips curling, his fingers tapping against the bench, as if daring her to push further. She wasn't about to stop. "Your Honor," she said, tone steady. "These documents show clear discrepancies in funding allocations. The defendant's company received nearly triple the approved amount, and none of it is accounted for in the state records." She turned, gesturing toward the projection screen where financial statements were displayed. Gates cut in again, voice sharp. "I hate to interrupt your presentation. Really, I do, but I think we've seen enough numbers for one day." Bondi glanced at him, then back at the screen. He wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. "With all due respect, Your Honor, these numbers are the foundation of the case."
He scoffed.
"And yet I fail to see anything that justifies wasting the court's time." There it was again. Wasting time. He was trying to bury this case before it even got off the ground. Pam took a slow, deliberate breath. And then she did something that changed everything. She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a small recorder. Placing it on the table, she pressed play. A voice filled the courtroom.
Low. Gruff.
Unmistakable. "Take care of it. I don't care how." The recording crackled, then continued. "Make sure she doesn't get her hands on those ledgers." The silence was absolute. Suffocating. Bondi didn't look at him. She didn't need to. Every single person in that room had just heard Judge Howard Gates incriminate himself. And now the real game was about to begin.